Let's talk. We wanna welcome you to SAZETU. Let's talk. The show's alive because of SAZETU.
SAZETU is brought to you by Maine Spirits. Learn more about the delicious spirits they import into the great state of Maine and the cocktails you can make with them at mainspirits.com or by downloading their app for your smartphone or visiting them on Instagram at Maine_spirits. Promotional consideration by State Theater Portland. Visit statetheaterportland.com for an up-to-date schedule of virtual events and upcoming announcements as we get closer to normalcy. And Sun Tiki Studios, a top-notch rehearsal and performance facility located on Forest Avenue in Portland, Maine. Learn more at suntikistudios.com.
Hello and welcome to Happy Hour once again. We are continuing with Cointreau. Cointreau is an orange liqueur. Think fancy triple sec, and you're most of the way there. So we so far have made, let me look at my notes here, we've made an orange celery margarita, we've made a cosmopolitan, and today we are going to make a Cointreau sour. So let's get our tools together. We'll need a shaker, a strainer, a jigger, a paring knife, and a martini glass. For ingredients, the following: Cointreau, fresh lemon juice, fresh orange juice, and 1 egg white. Let's build this thing. In a shaker, add 1 egg white, 1 1/2 ounces of Cointreau, 0.75 ounces of fresh lemon juice, and 1 ounce of fresh orange juice. Now put the top on that and shake it vigorously for quite not a minute, but maybe like 30 seconds to a minute, somewhere in there. Then take the top off, add ice, and then shake it again until cold. Now strain that into a martini glass and garnish it with an orange twist. What you're going to see is it has like a head to it, like a beer would off a tap. And that egg white is going to give it kind of a creaminess. It's all, you're not going to taste egg. So if you're like, ugh, egg in my drink, and if you're worried about like raw egg, like I get it. You probably eat cookie dough, so relax. Yeah, this is a smooth and creamy drink. It's going to be tart, a little bit sweet. It's a real, it's like an orange Julius for grown-ups. There, that's what it's like. Take a sip. See? Told you so. You can learn more about this drink and many other drinks at mainspirits.com. Sign up for their email list, or you can download their app for your smartphone, which is a smart move because it's a wealth of information. What to buy, where to buy it, and what to make with it once you get it. Or you can follow them on Instagram at main_spirits. But as always, we implore you to drink deliciously and responsibly. Whereas this is our fourth attempt to start this show, I'm not going to do that intro bit again.
Understood.
It is worn out. We had this whole shtick. It was hilarious. Where we're like, oh, is this show on? And you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, oh, what are you doing here? And then we talked about how, like, what we actually do is like, you know, record this show live, you know, and then for that hour we're together, and then for the rest of the week, we're just sitting quietly in the same spot, like with our headphones on in front of the microphone, just like in the dark, like doing nothing. And I made a joke about how I looked like the guy who ate himself to death in the movie Seven, and we laughed. And then you made
all
some
two
jokes.
of us laughed so hard.
Both of us
loved it.
We were laughing, so it was really funny. But we're not going to do that again.
No,
because that shit's played out.
Exactly.
But we are here today to speak to the films of Quentin Tarantino.
That's right. And why are we doing this? Because we like to.
That's it. That's
it.
The beginning, middle, and end of our reasoning.
Yeah.
We felt like it. We're both, I think I can speak for you here, Zach, huge fans of his movies.
That is correct. I love me some QT movies.
Me too. And they are often controversial.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of gratuitous virus.
Yeah.
Wow. You can tell where my brain's at.
Freudian.
Gratuitous violence and gratuitous use of the N-word. They're kind of his two of his signatures.
Yes. The latter of which
has always made my skin crawl.
Same. Yeah, I always like, obviously as a writer, he's very character and dialogue driven, and he writes about sleazy people and criminals and stuff like that. So it stands to reason those characters would use that word. But also, I don't know if any other filmmaker uses that word as often as he does. So,
yeah, no, I agree. I'm on the same tip. Like, it's not. It's about the person that you see on the screen and whether or not. How,
exactly. For instance, I don't believe you hear that word once in Inglourious Bastards. So
right, because it would be why would it be said?
Yeah, who would be saying that in that movie?
Exactly. And then the other thing that I kind of like take as my litmus test or lighthouse or beacon, right, is that his movies consistently star Samuel L. Jackson, and I feel like if he felt like it were used inappropriately, he'd be the first person to say so. Yeah. So speaking of which, did you ever see that clip when he was on like some news channel and somebody the reporter referred to him as Lawrence Fishburne?
Yes, I have seen
Oh
that.
my God. Sometimes I watch that just for fun because it's just like, oh God. Like,
well, did you ever watch Ricky Gervais' show Extras?
yes.
Because the episode that Sam Jackson is in, one of the characters thinks he's Lawrence Fishburne, and that happened before that interview.
That's wild.
And I mean, another case of extras predicting the future was the Kate Winslet episode had her starring in a Holocaust movie. And at one point she's like, well, that's how you get nominated or that's how you win an Academy Award. She's like, I've been nominated, but I haven't won one yet. And then, of course, when she finally won her Academy Award, it was for The Reader, which is a Holocaust movie.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, good sidebar. So yeah, that's how like I kind of just like let it roll, and between it being the character driven thing and like, but that's it. It just still makes me go ugh every time.
Yeah. Well, it's like, remember there used to be a thing with like PG or PG-13 films, I guess. I can't remember what the rule was, but it was like you're allowed like a certain amount of uses of like the F word or the whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
It seems like QT might need that sort of restriction on his use of the N-word. But
yes, maybe. Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, it makes us uncomfortable for a reason.
Yes.
So just sit with it, I guess.
Yeah, we have been for 25 years.
That's right. That's right. So what we've done here, even though you pointed out, Zach, that Tarantino only claims to have 9.
He claims to have 9, and he says that his 10th will be the last film that he makes.
Yeah. And Kiss is breaking up and not going on tour ever again. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We've managed to fill the brackets, 16 brackets with movies. So what we've included on our best of the best bracket list, patented bracket system, is
that we invented.
That's right. Movies that he directed and or wrote. And then to fill it out to 16, that got us to 15. And for the 16th, for the 16th slot, we have included a hypothetical. And the reason that we included this hypothetical was because we are both so confident in his ability to make a great film, because he has yet to make a shitty movie. IMHO. That if this hypothetical film gets made, we're both very confident that it will at the very least be awesome. So we'll get to that. Get to that a little bit later. Additionally, what we tried to do is pair them up appropriately. So each film with another quote unquote like film, right?
Right.
Except for one, which is kind of like this sing. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So you'll see.
Okay.
They'll see where we're going when we get there.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Also, when we get there, it occurred to me that they are appropriately matched up, and I'll tell you why once we
I
get to that
cannot
part of the show.
wait to see how. Wow. Okay. Great. I still can't see it.
That's the cliffhanger. That's to keep you waiting till the end. That's like the coming up after the commercial break, a performance from Sting.
Yeah, that keeps people on the edge of their seat to this day.
The last, 30 seconds of the show, he plays while the credits roll.
That's right.
After you waited the whole time.
I mean, usually I tune out of this show after the intro.
Yeah.
I mean, not just listening, but like while we're recording it.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to stay all the way to the end.
Good.
Yeah. Maybe I won't play Candy Crush. Like that's like my side of the show is like, yeah, yeah, what? Yeah. Tarantino. What do we talk about?
I'm kicking ass on Farmville right now.
Gardenscapes. That fucking guy in Gardenscapes drives me crazy. I hate looking at him, and I hate how many versions of him there are too. It's like the Spider-Verse, except the Gardenscapes guy. All right, so do you want to jump into the first mashup, or did you have anything you want to?
Let's just jump right in.
All right, and you will be pleased to know, Zach, that I've made it into my new studio space, and I have a new desk here. Loving my new desk and my setup, and I still have the good old-fashioned, best of the best tie-breaking nickel.
Excellent.
Yeah. Perched and ready.
One day that will be framed in a museum.
Yes, it will. It's so funny, like when we did this the first time and we needed a tiebreaker, I scrambled to find the first coin I could get my paws on, and it's not a good looking nickel either. It's all dirty.
But our friendship hangs in the balance of every flip of that nickel.
That's right. And it's just so weird that this nickel is like, I don't know, it's omnipresent. It's like I look at it every day. Why? Anyway, so it means it is like, the visual manifestation of this show for me. So the first match-up, I said mash-up earlier. I just want to acknowledge that. I know that I made a mistake. Get over it.
You're forgiven.
Thank you. First two...
By this guy, anyway.
First two tunes. By that I mean movies. First two pictures. Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
These were obviously his breakthrough films, Reservoir Dogs being his first film and Pulp Fiction being his big box office success.
And second film.
And second film. Mm-hmm. And both gangster films, of course, mm-hmm. or crime-driven films. Mm-hmm. I already have who I think wins this one, but I wouldn't mind talking about the films a little bit more.
Sure. I know where I'm going as well. These two movies are, to me, and I've brought this up a few times over the course of the past few seasons of the show, but there's that moment where an artist or a group of artists kind of tap into something new, mm-hmm. and then there's the moment that they realize that. And I feel Revolver into Sgt. Pepper, mm-hmm. Radiohead, The Bends into... OK Computer, Wilco's, Summerteeth into Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. That is kind of what happened here, except that he didn't have a few records really. From a director standpoint, he had written things before this, but as far as a chair, I love Reservoir Dogs because it is so. I quote that movie a lot, specifically if my wife's I'm really tired. She didn't sleep if she has to work a lot. It's a big day ahead of her. Didn't get enough sleep. That kind of thing. I'll do the Harvey Keitel at the end. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. So, that's the first time. The soundtrack. Stephen Wright, I believe, plays the DJ.
Yep.
And just the way he incorporates. Or pairs these visuals. I mean, obviously, most notably the chair scene.
The one that's still just thinking about it makes my whole body shiver.
But just also the tension too of knowing. Spoilers ahead.
That's right.
That Tim Roth's character was, the cop the whole time, and just like he's right there, just like in the lion's den.
Yep. So the cool thing about Reservoir Dogs is, well, there's many cool things about it, but QT was that's what I call him, by the way, QT.
You're referring to Q-Tip, of course.
That's right.
Yep.
No, I just mean that Quentin Tarantino is he's a cutie. He's a very cute guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure. But yeah, he didn't have any formal education. He was working at a video store in Los Angeles.
Sorry.
That's right.
Carry on.
So he wrote the story for Reservoir Dogs, and he was going to produce it independently, make, low budget film, probably shot on 16 millimeter with him and his buddies. Mm-hmm. And it was through a friend of a friend kind of connection, the script made its way to Harvey Keitel's wife, who brought it to Harvey Keitel, and he was like, I like this a lot. And so he decided to come on board as a producer to help Tarantino get financing, and also paid for him to hold auditions in New York. So what would have been just like a DIY small film was still a small film. I think it was only slightly over $1 million for the budget. But once you had Harvey Keitel on board as actor and producer, now he's got Tim Roth and Michael Madsen and all these guys on board. So it's
Steve Buscemi.
In a way, yeah, just great cast and great movie.
Yep.
And yeah, Harvey Keitel's kind of the guy who helped QT get his career kicked off. So
I feel like the only person who hadn't done great things prior, or notably great things, either prior or after, is the old boss guy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everyone in that movie kind of went on to be, or was already a pretty established, if not huge Bob Downey Jr. star, but acclaimed. Steve Buscemi.
Yep.
Yeah, and also I believe it's true that he used a lot of his money that he made, or all of the money that he made off of the script for True Romance.
True Romance.
To fund that as well. So
yeah. Also, these two films. Well, actually, so there's a whole theory that Quentin Tarantino's films all exist in the same universe.
Yes.
He was doing the expanded universe before the MCU.
Yeah.
Because Michael Madsen's character Vic Vega from Reservoir Dogs is supposed to be the brother of Vincent Vega, who's John Travolta's character in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
and apparently at one point he had a script written for a Vega Brothers film that just never came to be.
Yes. Probably a little too late now.
Probably a little too late
now.
now.
Unless he recast it, I guess.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, you'd have to recast it, because either way it has to be a prequel. And,
right, and there's not enough makeup in the world to make those two.
John Travolta has tried.
Sure, he has tried. Exactly. He's tried really, really hard.
Yeah.
What did he say? Adele Nazim. Remember that? He was on the Grammys, and he just severely mispronounced that artist's name.
Oh no, I don't remember that. But
check it out. It's I'm not shame. He made a mistake, but I just I can't understand how he. Hold on, let me call it up.
Okay.
Just because I want to speak to John Travolta. TRAV. See, the expensive shows have somebody to do this for them, but we're just not,
That's right.
We're just not at that point yet. Harvey Keitel has not come in to save the day for us yet.
No, I have been consistently tagging his wife on Instagram, though, so she'll listen to it and pass it on to him, but it has not worked yet.
Okay, so the artist's name, or an actor, I think, is Idina Menzel. IDINA MENZEL. Idina Menzel. Mm-hmm. And he said Adele Dazeem.
Close enough.
Well, it's just, it's whatever. People mispronounce things all the time. Maybe the cue card was fucked up or whatever. It's just I think about it a lot. I just don't know how he got from A to B. Those words aren't each other really at all. Anyway, so I digress.
So I think we can just go ahead and name the winner here because we're going to be talking about that more later, right?
I'm a Pulp Fiction guy on this one.
Okay, great. I'm with you on that.
I saw this movie. My friend James's dad took us, and it was 1994, so we were like 17 when it came out.
Yeah.
And his dad's like, "Oh, this won the Palme d'Or, like taking us out to get some culture," Yeah. And I remember him just looking at him at one point in the movie. I don't think I need to specify which point in the film. And he's just like in his collar, like up over his face, like, oh my God, what have I taken these boys to?
Yeah. There are things in that movie that that I just didn't know existed in life.
I learned
how they would work.
I learned a lot that day.
movie.
Yeah. And in the next year at USM, that movie it played a lot at the theater on campus, and I would just go every time. And man, it's fucking perfect, that movie.
It is. Should we move on?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why we're going to be talking about it later, because you're like thinking like this thing is going to.
Well, I knew it was going to survive at least to the next round, so.
I wouldn't be shocked if it made it all the way to the top.
Nor would I.
But I could say that about a number of these movies also.
That's true.
So the next two that we paired up, you want to take this one, Jones?
Sure. So this is where we get into Tarantino as a writer rather than director. And so we've got True Romance and Natural Born Killers. And as you pointed out earlier, he had sold that script to True Romance, which is what was going to help him fund Reservoir Dogs. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Are you aware of how closely related these two movies are?
Yes, but the listener may not be, so please.
Well, so these initially were written as part of the same story. Mm-hmm. As you know, in True Romance, it starts in Detroit, and then they make their way to California. Mm-hmm. And in his original storyline, the Christian Slater's character, whose name is escaping me, he's a writer, mm-hmm. and he was going to have, while they're traveling between Detroit and Los Angeles, he was going to be writing this story, which is basically the story that was developed into Natural Born Killers. Mm-hmm. Which is, I don't know, when I watch Natural Born Killers, it's interesting to think of it in the context of Christian Slater's character wrote this, but at the same time, I think Natural Born Killers went through quite a bit of changes once Oliver Stone got his hands on it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Clarence Worley is the name of his character. That's I didn't realize for the longest time that he had written Natural Born Killers, and mm-hmm. once I learned that, I was like, of course he did.
Yeah,
of course he did. And it looks exactly like a Quentin Tarantino story directed by Oliver Stone. It really looks like that.
I did read that somewhere. I don't know how accurate it is because it's just on one of those movie sites like Screen Guru or whatever. But supposedly Tarantino's version of the story was more focused around Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who was like the sleazy kind of like Inside Edition-esque journalist. Yeah. And Tarantino was the one that,
Stone.
Oliver Stone was the one who kind of turned it to be more focused on Mickey and Mallory, because it was like right around the time of like the OJ and some other high-profile cases where like the news coverage of it carried so much of public opinion that he decided to shape it around them being like a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde with the media. Mm-hmm. With modern media following it,
that would have been a cooler story. Would have brought, like if Oliver Stone directed Jaws, you just see the shark the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
And Tarantino's version would have been the shark is kind of like hiding a bit more, right? The monster, but just focusing on the monster. That movie. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it's good, and then other times like, it's a piece of shit. Like I don't know.
I've got the same thing. I mean, I feel like that's Oliver Stone trying to out Quentin Tarantino with his own story. Because that movie, there's a lot that makes me uncomfortable in it. The whole relationship, like the whole father-daughter, like Rodney, I almost said Rodney Downey Jr.
Rodney
Dangerfield.
Right.
Like some of it is just like so disturbing, and the fact they like, and I know it's by design,
Right.
But that's one I didn't really like it when I saw it when it first came out, but I also didn't understand what he was trying to do, like driving that narrative of the media shaping the way we view these crime stories.
Right.
And so I went back and watched it again recently, and I was like, okay, this is a really clever movie with and it's really like cleverly packaged, but I still don't enjoy watching it.
No, it's not an enjoyable watch.
Yeah.
I think by design too, maybe, but
yeah. But also Tarantino has kind of stepped back from his credit on that. Like he's credited as story, I think, because it was, I think, changed to the point where he's like, okay, fine, it was my story, but it's not really my movie anymore.
Totally.
Versus True Romance, he said he was a big fan of what Tony Scott did with it. And even though his original pitch for it, or whatever, his original script for it had the main characters dying at the end, and he was initially unhappy with Tony Scott letting them live. But he said that ultimately he liked it, especially because it wasn't the studio being like, no, we need to keep him alive just in case we do a sequel. Tony Scott just thought artistically it made more sense, and Tarantino eventually was like, okay, I like that.
And I mean, I personally want to give the vote to True Romance because I like it better.
Yeah, same.
But also, I mean, that scene with Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper is like fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, two of the great crazy men playing off each other.
Oh my god, like the calmness that they like, just the imminent death. Dennis Hopper's like still like he knows he's finished, but he's still just like sticking it to Chris Walken, and the more horrible the things he says to him, the more he laughs.
That's a great one.
Oh my god, I love it so much. Sometimes I just watch that like on YouTube, just that scene, kind of like the Glenn Ross.
I was gonna say, it's like it's almost just like an act off at that point.
Yeah,
it's like here's some great material, and here's two great actors. Let's see.
It's like akin to watching Prince sitting in with Tom Petty and band at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's like wow. So yeah, we'll give that one to True Romance.
Excellent. Or do you want to set this next one up?
I don't care. I'm just more. My main concern is that I'm not talking too much. On a talk show. That's saying something. Like if I'm recognizing that I talk too much on a talk show. That's my life. That's where I'm at.
Great. Well, that's going to be my new self-conscious issue moving forward for the rest of this now.
What, do you talk too much? Impossible.
Oh, good to know.
Yep.
All right. So our next one is two movies where he only directed a scene. And the first being Four Rooms, which he wrote and directed the whole scene. And the other being Sin City, which when it first came out, he was credited as special guest director.
Right.
But they did not highlight which scene he directed. We all now know what that is. And if you don't, I believe Spencer and I are going to tell you when we talk about it.
Right. Four Rooms was a collaboration between four directors.
Yes, two of which I don't remember their names.
I'm gonna
don't know about at all
right now. I know one was Tarantino, one was Robert Rodriguez, and I think that's kind of like the first time they went to the dance together.
Yeah,
maybe. And I'm almost there with. Where's the?
Yeah. So. Yeah, and those are those are the last two. So if for those of you who haven't seen Four Rooms, it is an anthology film that takes place in a hotel on New Year's Eve. And basically Timothy Roth is the bellhop, and he's bouncing between these four rooms, and each story takes place in a different room, in a different writer-director on each one. So Rodriguez did the third one, which is the one with Antonio Banderas and his the kids. And they find the corpse in the in the box spring of the bed. And then Tarantino did the last one where the guy gets his finger chopped off.
Yeah, the one with Bruce Willis, right?
Yeah.
Allison Anders and Alexandra, Rockwell.
You almost pulled a John Travolta.
Adele Nazim directed that. I'm glad that it exists. I'm glad that they kind of started like their directors club and they're kind of throwing their weight around, having fun. I like his segment. The whole movie for me it's not one I keep going back to.
Same. I haven't seen it in years.
Again, not bad. Very good, but not arresting for me. Sin City, on the other hand, when I saw that, you and I saw that together for the first time, I think.
We did. We were on tour somewhere.
Toronto.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yep. And I was blown away.
Same.
I'd never seen anything like it, and still haven't, except for the sequel.
Yeah, which I actually never saw.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sin City is directed by Robert Rodriguez. But apparently, so there's Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez had something they called the $1 deal. Have you heard about this?
I haven't.
So Tarantino famously uses, he very rarely has an original score for his film. He uses, music that exists in the world that complements the scenes.
Right.
Usually pop songs. And so Kill Bill Volume 2, Robert Rodriguez was like, you should have a score for this. And he's like, I'll write it for you. And he's like, okay. And so Tarantino paid him $1 to write the score.
Huh.
And then when he was making Sin City, he was like, you can return the favor now by directing a scene, which he then paid him $1 for directing the scene.
I like that.
But the other thing is, Sin City was one of the first movies to be, but one of the first movies to be like fully digital. Like it was all green screen background and shot digitally. And Tarantino very famously is like, he's a hardcore 35 millimeter film guy. And he's like, I hate digital film. But because he was working within the context of a Robert Rodriguez film, which was being shot digitally, I think it's the only example of Tarantino work where he's not worked on film, is that one scene in Sin City.
Yeah, I don't even know how you could make this movie any other way.
Yeah. Also, Robert Rodriguez was, did you know, the first director to release a movie that was shot exclusively digital?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Which one?
So it was Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Oh, shit.
In many, because the Phantom Menace was shot on film, but the next two Star Wars movies that George Lucas did were shot digitally. But apparently Lucas was developing, he was like, we're going to, digital is the future thing. But Robert Rodriguez I can't remember what film it would have come before that, but he, like many film people, was using Skywalker sound to mix and master the sound. And he ran into George Lucas while he was going through that progress, and Lucas was pitching him on digital video. And so when he went and made Once Upon a Time in Mexico, he shot it digitally. It was the first film to be shot digitally.
I learned a thing today.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to this Tarantino scene in Sin City?
Sure. So it's the scene where, and actually, sorry, and that was kind of the fun of it. I think when we saw it, was like, what scene do you think Tarantino did?
Right.
And I don't know if we accurately guessed it. I can't remember. But it is the scene where Clive Owen's character kills Benicio del Toro's character, and then they're like, here, take this stolen car and go ditch the body. And while he's driving to ditch the body, he has visions of Benicio del Toro's dead body coming to life and talking to him.
Right.
With like a pistol or like with like the butt of a gun or something sticking out of his head.
Yeah.
His like throat is slit.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then he gets pulled over, right? Like, well,
that's right.
It was like, yeah.
Yeah, actually, it makes sense too because it's kind of like a throwback to American Werewolf in London, where he's visited by his friend who died in the moors, and every time he comes back, he's just like looks more and more like the gruesomeness of his death is not hidden.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that makes sense. Although I will say that I feel like Tarantino could have also directed this movie, and it would have been different, obviously. But I don't know. I like how well they can play together.
Totally.
I don't know, it's like those. It's fun. It's fun for me over here as a fan that they're friends and they do that. That's
Yes.
fun. I would give this to Sin City because I just think it's a
Agreed.
great movie.
Yep, I'm with you. I haven't watched it in years now, and just talking about it makes me want to go watch it again.
Oh yeah, I think it's weird. I think about it like often. It's strange how much I think about. Like I think about like how they made what's his nuts, the Frodo. Why can't I think of his name?
Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood. They make him so creepy.
Yeah.
And how utterly disgusting the Yellow Man is.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Mickey Rourke's role in that, he's so good in that. He couldn't be a better actor for that spot.
So good. Yeah, that was kind of a comeback for him. Yeah, and he was perfectly cast, and he was so good in it.
Right. So, Sin City it is.
Sin City
Shall
it is.
we move on to the next bracket?
I see no reason why we shan't.
Great. So these are movies where he... Well, I don't know why we paired them together because of the Rodriguez Bond, I think. And it's From Dusk Till Dawn and his feature within the Grindhouse movie event, Death Proof. And I saw Death Proof. I saw Grindhouse in its entirety in the theater upon its release, and I feel really lucky because it had, it's just to, I wanted to go for the ride, the full ride, and was able to. Living in Portland, Oregon at the time, they had more of a theater kind of scene out there, but all like the fake trailers, Thanksgiving, all that stuff was like really fun. So
yeah, that's where the Danny Trejo's machete character came from, right? It was one of those trailers.
Yep, that's right.
Because I actually never saw Grindhouse in its entirety. I can't remember how I missed seeing it in the theater when it came out, but so I actually still have not seen Planet Terror, which is the Robert Rodriguez half of it. I later on got just the Death Proof as a standalone extended film. So yeah, I have not seen Grindhouse in its entirety.
You should check out Planet Terror. It's both of those movies are awesome directors just having fun. Kind of reminds me of when James Cameron did True Lies. And not to say that they obviously like took it seriously, but it's just like they're just flexing and sticking the landing on it's good stuff. I mean, in Planet Terror, there's a lady who has a leg that's a gun.
That's right. I remember that from the trailers.
It was ridiculous. And Tarantino actually acts, and he's an actor in Planet Terror. But Death Proof, I was going to go down a different... Am I cutting you off on a thing?
No. I was actually going to speak to From Dusk Till Dawn a little bit, but if you're still on Death Proof, go for it.
So Death Proof is... I love Tarantino's ability to take actors that are... There's just a thing to him, and he like the way he was able to put John Travolta in a great light. He just crushed it, right? He got it. And I'll say the same for Robert Forster and Jackie Brown. We'll talk about that later. But that he could see
Russell?
Kurt Russell and just, because he's in his brain, it's still, that's Kurt Russell from The Thing. That's Kurt Russell from Escape from New York.
Yeah.
And he kind of like ditched that whole like romantic lead thing and kind of brought him back to his like his B, quote unquote, B movie, roots in a great way. Like, I mean, it's also like there's that scene like with the so the movie's about a serial killer who uses cars as a weapon, basically.
He's like a Hollywood stuntman, right? And
right.
His car is supposedly death proof.
Right. Or is it?
Yeah. Or is it?
Yeah. I don't know. This movie's like good fun.
I enjoy it quite a bit. It gets a lot of criticism for the first almost half of it is a lot of sitting around and talking.
Yeah.
But I feel like the dialogue is Quentin Tarantino's strength as a writer. So it's like it's fun to listen to his characters sit around and talk because you always know it's going to end in some gruesome action. Anyway.
Yep. Speaking of gruesome action, From Dusk Till Dawn. This one's fun for me because it's one of the guest stars, or not guest stars, what do you call it? One of the stars of it is Tom Savini, Are you familiar with Tom Savini?
No, tell me about Tom Savini.
So Tom Savini is he's kind of the godfather of gore. He invented techniques which we now take for granted. He was the makeup artist on Friday the 13th, the original. He came back for the fourth movie only because he was promised he'd be able to kill Jason off, which he did, but obviously it didn't stick. He did Dawn of the Dead. That was a very revolutionary movie of his. A lot of Romero movies, Creep Show. He even has directed something. He directed a remake of Night of the Living Dead, which is not bad at all. And he brought on Greg Nicotero to do the effects for Day of the Dead, which was George Romero's third zombie movie. And in '85, it's probably arguably the best made of the movies, because he had more of a budget than certainly more than the $150,000 that he made the other movies for, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not the one I go back. I go back to Dawn of the Dead, but I bring up Day of the Dead because Greg Nicotero was his other on that movie, like his kind of protege or whatever. And Greg Nicotero is now like the guy. He's what was that show? Walking Dead. So special makeup effects in the gore department. You're obviously going to look to Stan Winston. You're going to look to Rick Baker, who was the first person to win an Academy Award for makeup effects, and they're all kind of like in the same club, but like Tom Savini has a very specific space that he lives in, and just that they would bring him in as a star, and this is like, I don't know, it's like a nerd nod, and I like it.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Nice. Oh, it's okay. That was a good lesson for me to learn on the show.
Nice.
that's why I do this every week.
That's right.
Pick little tidbits of knowledge.
Yes. One day, you and I are both going to crush at pub trivia.
That's right.
One day.
I think we have a lot of potential in our friendship moving forward as well.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But so Quentin Tarantino wrote From Dusk Till Dawn and stars in it, right? He did write it. Am I correct on that?
Let me double check here. Yes, screenplay.
Okay. Yeah, but it's directed by Robert Rodriguez. I feel like one of my knocks against it is I am just not a fan of Quentin Tarantino as an actor.
Nope.
A lot of times the weakest parts of his own movies are when he does his director cameos.
Every time.
So having him...
It's awful.
Yeah.
It needs to
having
stop.
him just be the lead in a movie with George Clooney, co-starring with George Clooney and Harvey Keitel.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a fun movie, but I prefer Death Proof, even though Quentin Tarantino himself refers to Death Proof as his worst movie.
Yeah, I could go either way. I like From Dusk Till Dawn. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in there. Just like, the cool nods to older Hollywood, Cheech Marin being in there. Danny Trejo is like always awesome, no matter what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Like I would watch that guy. I don't know. I'd watch him open containers of sour cream because it would be really interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I do love like the hard turn that movie takes. It's basically like what George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino are brothers. Mm-hmm. Tarantino's like, whatever. George Clooney's like the brains of the operation and the looks.
Right.
But yeah, they end up, Harvey Keitel's like a father and they're in a Winnebago, and somehow the two criminals end up in the Winnebago with them. And then they end up at this like roadside bar, and, all these nefarious characters in there. And then, of course, they just turn into vampires after dark, and it becomes like a gruesome shoot 'em up with vampires.
Oh, it's so brutal. So for me, like, I wouldn't say like either of these movies are like A's, but they're B pluses. They're fun. They're fun, and they both kind of like check a lot of the same boxes for me. So if you're inclined to go with Death Proof, I'm inclined to just follow you there.
All right, fair enough.
All right, Death Proof. That's for the listener. That pause is me actually using pen and paper, if you can imagine such a thing, writing things down.
I'm also writing things down with.
I like it.
Pen and paper.
I like the tactile experience of scrolling.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have a Google Doc going, but I just don't want to. I don't want to type it. I want to write it. Should we jump over to the next bracket?
Let's do that.
Great. Kill Bill 1 versus Kill Bill 2.
If you were to ask Quentin Tarantino, he would tell you that these are one film. This is how he justifies saying that he's only got 9 films, even though he's released 10.
He can say that all he wants, but he charged me twice.
Exactly.
And made me wait.
There's also a cut of it that I have yet to see because I only knew it existed as of yesterday, which is Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair, which is the 2 movies as one with extended scenes, I believe.
I will check it out for the sake of curiosity, but also am satisfied with what was presented and how it was presented.
Agreed.
I'm inclined to give... They're both great. I love them both. They both have awesome attributes. I'm inclined to give it to Kill Bill 1.
Yep.
I don't know, just like, because it was also new and so fresh at that point, but also for the inclusion of that, the animated short.
Yep.
Which was the origins of Lucy Liu's character.
Orenishi.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like that is so beautiful and so well done.
Yeah. And also the duel between Lucy Liu and why am I blanking on
Uma Thurman?
her name? Uma Thurman. Yeah. They're like sword fight at the end with like that. They're in like the garden, right? And there's like a thing that's dripping the whole time.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? There's like a fountain,
Yes.
I guess. It just keeps doing that. Yeah. And it's just so well shot. I mean, you can tell that, Tarantino is a fan of like the old school martial arts genre movies, and he just nails it all the way through.
Yeah.
But also, taking those turns into like the anime for a second and the way that the characters are introduced and stuff. I feel like Kill Bill 2 loses a little bit of that. It's a little bit more straightforward storytelling because at that point he's just trying to get to the end. Like,
Right.
The first one's all about the mystery. Like, who is she? She doesn't even know who she is.
Right.
And she's like picking up pieces of her past, and we're beating these characters through it. So I feel like the second one, I think it doesn't rush to its conclusion, but it kind of just feels like it's just trying to get to the conclusion the whole time. Versus the first one is just always introducing new things and putting them in cool little packages.
I mean, if Kill Bill 1 is an A, then Kill Bill 2 is an A minus.
Yeah, agreed.
It's like it's very. I mean, there's all Daryl Hannah's character is great. The whole clawing the way out of the grave using the training that she got back in the first movie.
Yeah.
Michael Madsen's gross trailer, and just him, like he is like the embodiment of a gross trailer personified.
I also remember, I think we saw Kill Bill. I think we probably saw them both together, but I remember seeing the second one and just that scene where she's buried alive.
Yes.
And it's just all black and silent.
Yes.
I remember that, like, sitting in the dark in the movie theater, just like that almost felt like you were buried with her.
Yeah, it was very effective.
It's pretty excellent.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, all right, well, you want to agree on Kill Bill 1?
I do want to agree on that.
KB1. Take us to the next spot, my friend.
Right on. The next spot we have Quentin Tarantino going Western. The Hateful Eight and Django Unchained. The D is silent.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So what I love about the Django Unchained...
I think there was a scene in the movie where I think Jamie Foxx actually says the D is silent.
Yeah, you're right.
It was in the trailer too.
Yep. My bad. I totally whiffed on that. That was a good joke, and I missed it.
That's
It
all
wasn't
right.
the joke,
All right.
it was me. So
Thanks.
I recently actually rewatched both of these movies, and I absolutely love them both so much.
Agreed.
They're so good. Jamie Foxx crushes that movie, and also Christoph Waltz. Like he's another person I would watch him do anything. He's just so captivating, and I will say, between the two, I gravitate towards Hateful Eight because there's just something about that movie. It might be my favorite Tarantino movie, which I know is not like maybe like a popular thing to say, But I watched I watched it when it came out, but then I watched the recently extended cut. And
Did you watch even when it was initially released, there was like 3 cuts right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Depending on where and how you saw it. But then they did the one on Netflix. It's broken up into 4 episodes. If you've seen that one.
That's the one I watched most recently. And you know what? I'd watch it if they added another 4 episodes. More. What a crew. Like Bruce Dern, the tension, just, everyone in that room just wants to just murder each other all the time. There's no trust there. And I loved how much it's based on The Thing. And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is like The Thing, but it's a Western. And it turns out that Tarantino had everybody in the cast watch one movie, which was The Thing. And there's even like a nod to that movie with like the rope guide in the snowstorm.
Yeah.
I just everybody's character in that movie is so awesome and perfect, and just the trickery and the murdering and
Quentin Tarantino owns and operates the New Beverly Cinema in Los Angeles, which I go to all the time. And when that movie so at the New Beverly, everything is on 35 millimeter film because it's Tarantino. Like at one point, he had the people that run it, who he had them booking, and they started booking digital films. Yeah. And so he took over booking too. He's like, no, only film. The Hateful Eight, when that opened, that played there it's just a standalone film. They always do double features at New Beverly unless it's like a brand new thing. But that only lasted for like 2 weeks, and then he started doing it as a double feature, but pairing it up with movies that influenced it.
Oh, cool.
So he would pair it up with like Stagecoach, but the one I went to, which was the second time I saw it at that theater, was The Hateful Eight and The Thing. Back to back, and it's great.
That sounds like a nice night.
Yes. Also, the music in The Hateful Eight, it's another Tarantino film with an original score, but the majority of that score was the original score that Ennio Morricone wrote for The Thing,
right.
which was then rejected in favor of a more synthesizer-driven score for The Thing. So Tarantino took that original music, had Ennio Morricone write some more music, and
which you won an Oscar
for. Your score for The Hateful Eight. He did.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Django, you want to speak to Django for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, Django, I love. I like that he went Western and also went sort of blaxploitation at the same time.
Yes. What a mashup.
Yes. Very, very cool twist. I feel like that movie does lose a little bit of focus. Like toward the end, it feels like a little disjointed. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I always remember like the final act, or there's a scene basically like once Jamie Foxx becomes a bounty hunter, and starts working in the business. There's a scene where it feels like almost a different movie than the first half, and rather than being like a smooth character transition, it feels just sort of like abrupt. So that's always kind of turned me a little bit on that movie, and also I feel like just being another revenge film at that point, I was a little burned on Tarantino just going in that same direction again, like as far as being the main motivation. The Hateful Eight, I love the tension of all of those people in the room and being like, who do we trust? Who do we... if I had one like complaint about that, it would be... there's minor spoilers here. I'm not going to exactly say what happens, but spoilers, yeah. It ends up that there are more people around than the 8 people you see in the room for most of the film, and I feel like that takes a little bit of the whodunit out of it. And also the fact that when they reveal whodunit as far as the people in the room are, it's exactly who you would have thought they would have been. It's like he does a great job like creating like this suspicion and this tension of like who's who and who are they actually say they are. And by the end, it's like, oh, there's a surprise person here, and also it's exactly who I thought it might be.
Yeah, I'll give you that. It doesn't spoil it for me though. And I love, one of the criticisms I read was just like, oh, it's just like so wordy and boring. It's like, I love it.
Me too.
I love the use of space. Like there's like if someone's walking from one side of the room to the other side of the room and they don't have anything to say, It takes that's how long there's just the sound of silence and boots walking, and I love that. And that extend that to the whole movie. And then also when he kind of goes through and even within the same room, he'll do his Tarantino thing where he does it from another perspective. But again, everything takes as long as it took, and you kind of see what was happening in this side of the room. I just love it so much. I could live in that movie. It's just great.
Agreed. I mean, I saw it twice in the theater and watched the Netflix cut of it.
Yep.
And the versions that they had at the theater were what they called the roadshow version.
Right.
Which I can't remember what the huge difference was from that and the other cut, other than it was probably like a half hour longer.
I think we ended up seeing everything in the episodic version, right? Like all versions assembled.
That's all there is.
In Django, I agree with Django in that by the end, that third act kind of loses it a little bit. You know what I mean? But it's just by the end, it's just okay, the bang, 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 bang. You're like, oh my God, okay. And and I also feel like it would have been nice to kind of leave that moment where you see him become a bounty hunter, but really just walk away from it, and then give us that sequel, and then just make a whole different movie out of that. I'll take that, and obviously that's still a possibility considering all parties are still active and awesome. I would personally give this one to Hateful Eight.
I'm right there with you.
Wow, same page. All right, jumping on to Inglourious Bastards versus Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And the reason we chose this mashup was because it's the revisionist history. Maybe I'll open by saying, well, I love both of these movies. Inglourious Bastards, I love more. Because for me, it was the first time that by the time he's shooting Hitler in the face at the end, I'm like, what am I watching? And I just think that Christoph Waltz's performance in that is transcendent. It's
well, the Academy agreed with you.
It's unbelievable how much tension that guy can create. It's
Yep. I mean, that opening scene where they're hiding under the floorboards and he's it's so good.
The milk. The whole in the pipe. He takes out his big, enormous pipe. It's he's awful and awfulsome. Brad Pitt rules in that movie.
Yeah.
And I love that they have this rogue group of just murderous Jewish men who are just coming after you. It's was it Eli Roth plays the bear Jew, I believe is the character's name.
Yeah.
And oh God, just with the baseball bat coming, you just hear him coming. That whole scene in the woods with the Nazi they captured is just another one of those tension moments. You're oh God, get me out of this. The whole scene in the basement bar.
Yeah, that's so good. I think about that a lot, actually. I was watching TV the other night and somebody did the thing where they were, counting to 3 and they held up their 2 fingers and their thumb.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I know about that because of Inglourious Bastards.
I knew about that because of for some reason I took German in high school because I don't know,
I did as well, and I retained nothing.
I retained some, but I learned that was how they did that. That's how you order a beer in Germany with your thumb. Ein Bier bitte. And the second he did that, I'm like, ooh. I felt like I was in the club.
Nice.
But just every scene of that movie, just the way it all plays out. The only thing that is you just got to roll with it by the end of it. It's the bit where Brad Pitt and his cohort, whose name I can't remember, but they're Guillermo, he's just not refined at all. He wouldn't have even made it through the door.
Yeah, I love they kind of acknowledge that in it too when they're posing as an Italian camera crew. They're but none of you speak Italian.
Yeah. Buongiorno.
He says something like, I speak at the first best, so I'll be there, whatever. They're like, you don't speak it at all.
Yeah, they lean it. But that's just fun. That's where it's a comedy. And that's what the thing about that movie is, like, such a gruesome subject matter and topic and time. But it somehow is like this uproarious comedy at times.
That movie to me gets better and better every time I watch it too, and I've always liked it.
Yeah, it's a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah,
it really is.
I have only seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood once.
Same.
And there are two things that disappointed me about it. First of all, I should say I really liked it, but there are two things that disappointed me about it. And the first one I think I've talked about before, which is I hate that portrayal of Bruce Lee.
Yes.
In it. I'm such a fan of Bruce Lee, but I also think that he was like, he was breaking barriers in Hollywood for Asian American actors. And to have your one scene in your historical Hollywood film be one that's used as a joke at his expense. It's like if you made a movie about baseball that takes place in like the 50s, and your one scene with Jackie Robinson is he's used for comic relief.
Right.
Rather than that bugged me a bit. And then the other thing is, when they first announced the film and didn't say anything about it other than Quentin Tarantino unnamed Charles Manson project. That was how they first described it, and I was like, all right, I know exactly what's going to happen here. It's like the Manson family is going to get brutally murdered at the end of this.
Yeah. But man, like, what a joy it was to watch.
It was. But I mean, the one thing that he had going was like, through a lot of the film, I was like, wow, maybe I've got this wrong. Maybe it's not going to go like that at all. Maybe it's going to be... And then I was like, oh, nope, there it is. But
yeah, I mean, the way
it was glorious.
He's able to take Brad Pitt, who is just a murdering bully asshole, and like make him such like a fun character is like a distinctly Tarantino skill set. And by the time he's like, by the time the end of the movie rolls around, he's on a head full of LSD and he's just assassinating people. Like the can of dog food. Like I don't think I've ever felt worse for laughing out loud at something in a theater. Like it happened and I just couldn't help. I was like, oh my God. It's so awful and so brutal, but it's so funny also. Man, it's just... And I'm with you on the Bruce Lee scene, and what I enjoyed about that scene is it's reminiscent of that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark when he's faced with the sword. Indiana Jones is faced with the hulking swordsman who's like, just like doing all these crazy sword moves, and he just like kind of like casually just pulls out his pistol and is like problem solved. And I think that they could have used somebody else and had that scene still work, because it is fundamentally funny if you remove, it being Bruce Lee.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like, I think that, he was trying to develop Brad Pitt's character by showing that he's a formidable fighter and he can hold his own, not only hold his own against Bruce Lee, but throw him up against a car.
Yeah.
It's like it serves a character development purpose, but at the same time, they could have just used any generic or fictional person, that's maybe just physically imposing or whatever, to use that way. If there was more Bruce Lee in the film, or there was more, it just bothers me. That's like the one time that character is. I guess they show him on set doing stunt coordinating for a film at one point.
Yeah, no,
mainly it's just him talking shit and then getting thrown against a car.
The Bruce Lee scene is him talking shit, getting thrown against the car. Switch that out, and then, but then he'd probably make an argument. No, it had to be Bruce Lee because this thing was like, actually, it didn't. Whatever. Anyway, it's not even like my favorite scene in the movie. So,
I would still give it to Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, all day. Once Upon a Time is good, but not Inglourious Bastards good. Okay, so then
I do.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say one last thing about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I do appreciate how it sort of calls to Italian films of the time while still being very much rooted in Hollywood.
Yes.
DiCaprio's character was, I want to say Jack Dalton, but that was his name in Titanic, wasn't it?
I don't know now. Now I'm so confused.
But yeah, the fact that he, was a TV star who then went to Italy and starred in a bunch of Italian films, that's basically Clint Eastwood. He was on Rawhide and then starred in Sergio Leone films.
Right.
Like the Dollars Trilogy. And although I think the show that DiCaprio's character is supposed to be on is supposed to be, okay. I think it's supposed to be like Steve McQueen's Wanted Dead or Alive, but still, I like that. And also just the title Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Sergio Leone obviously has Once Upon a Time
in the West.
What was it? Once Upon a Time in the West, and also Once Upon a Time in America. And the original title for Duck You Sucker before it was repackaged was Once Upon a Time the Revolution.
Jack Dawson in Titanic.
Dawson, I was close. Okay.
Well, the names are very close in a way.
You know who Jack Dalton is? I think he's MacGyver's buddy.
Wow.
I don't know.
MacGyver. Hold on. Let's have a look-see.
Okay, yeah, we must get to the bottom of this.
How do you spell MacGyver? M-C-G-Y?
I don't know. There's a new version of that show on that my parents watch.
Mac.
It's like another repackaged 80s property.
Really?
Yep.
Ugh. MacGyver. We're talking OG MacGyver.
Yeah.
We're starring Richard Dean Anderson.
That's right.
And I'm looking. See full cast. Well, this is gonna be tough because it's a whole show.
Yep. Maybe if you just type in Jack Dalton.
Jack Dalton. It is Jack Dalton. Played.
Okay. Wow. Yes.
Hold on. Wow.
I don't know how I remember that.
Either. Like yeah. If pressured to do so, I would not have been able to come up with that. All right. So for the last round, we have paired our, as we discussed, a hypothetical up against one of his movies that it's singular in the context of his lexicon to date. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to hear how you think they relate. So please lead the charge on this one.
Sure. All right. So we have the last official Quentin Tarantino movie we have is Jackie Brown. And our hypothetical is for the last 2-3 years, it's been rumored that Quentin Tarantino wants to direct a Star Trek movie. And he's written a treatment which has been scripted and screenwritten by the guy who wrote The Revenant, whose name is escaping me.
I'm on it.
But this is how they connect, is so every Quentin Tarantino film that he has directed, with the exception of Jackie Brown, is a completely original story. Jackie Brown is an adaptation of a novel. And Star Trek would also be an adaptation of something that already exists. So there's how they relate.
That's not where I thought you were going to go, but...
oh, please tell me where you thought I was going to go.
I had no idea. I didn't see it going that way. Yeah, so to tighten up the intro a little bit, it's not just rumored that he wanted to do this. It's not just like chatter. Like he met with J.J. Abrams. Like things have been...
yeah, I mean, supposedly a screenplay exists.
That's right.
Like it has been written. And
so we went down the rabbit hole of like trying to find, leaked script or, Star Trek Tarantino leaked. And we came across a litany of fan fiction. That was like one we're starting to read. We're like, this is going to be incredible. But then it keeps going on in its description. It's like, and I think you pointed out, it was like, wait a minute. Like, this is like, I've seen all the Star Trek stuff properties, so this excites me. But an average person is going to walk in off the street and be like, what the fuck is going on? It just like,
yeah, it grabbed like deep cut Trek lore from every Star Trek series.
Like at least
it's like no regular person is going to be like,
no one
understand what's going on here without tons of explanation.
Exactly. So Mark Smith is the screenwriter.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, I mean that would have been great. That guy, he was fresh off The Revenant, which Academy Award winning, and you can tell QT is a Trek nerd.
Yeah,
and he would have handled it respectfully and definitely cranked up the probably the violence and the language. Well, maybe not the language so much, because I feel like he would respect that that's like kind of part of the canon is that the characters have like grown past salty language.
Yeah, maybe double dumbass on you.
Yeah, exactly. Colorful metaphors.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, maybe there would have been language, maybe not, but like definitely violent, probably moralistic. He said he would do it, but only if it was rated R.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do it in the current Kelvin timeline, which the new Star Trek movies exist in. He would use the existing actors. I mean, I am so confident in Quentin Tarantino as a filmmaker and such a believer in the Star Trek property that if he actually makes this Star Trek movie, I will not say the same for every like Star Trek movie that comes out. Like I'm like, I don't know. Like with the new Star Wars, like I don't know. We'll see. And I find myself reliably disappointed. But I just feel like Tarantino, he gets shit so much, and he's just so meticulous about it. There's just no way. I'm already going to say his Star Trek movie is the best Star Trek movie since Wrath of Khan, and it might even be better.
He has, in the very few things he said about it out loud, he's at multiple times referenced the original series episode, City on the Edge of Forever, which is the one where... Kirk, McCoy like disappears into the past, and Kirk and Spock have to go back and find him. Kirk falls in love with a woman and finds out that because the future is altered and the Enterprise disappeared, which is why they need to go back and figure out what happened. But she apparently has started this pacifist movement around World War II, and because of that, the U.S. never entered the war, and Germany and Japan won. So he has to make sure this woman dies, but before he realizes that that's what he needs to do, he falls in love with her. And then has to make that choice to let her get killed.
Rugged.
So I feel like Tarantino would definitely like lock into that, like, because he gets characters and he gets that stuff. He would lock into that emotion, but also at the same time put it in this like, fancy package with lots of, whatever, green blood all over the place.
Yeah. And he'd also like the characters are so important, like the trifecta of Kirk and Spock and McCoy. And I feel like oftentimes Abrams lets it kind of like go off the rails and just like their characters jump out of what we fundamentally know them to be, or worse, they're like caricatures of themselves.
Abrams is a visual director. I feel like Abrams doesn't care about story or characters. He's all about how cool does this look.
And it looks cool as hell. All of his everything he's touched, Star Trek looks great. Star Wars looks great, but the characters is just like. And whereas Tarantino is a character guy, I think he'd crush that. That said, there's a real movie that he directed called Jackie Brown, which I actually saw it when it came out, and I saw it once or twice afterwards, but it's been a while. But it's weirdly one of the ones I think about the most often in a way. I don't know why that is.
Much like Inglourious Bastards, I feel like Jackie Brown is one of those ones that it was always good and it gets better with every viewing. And I like that. Yeah, he took, I think the original story, like the book that's based on takes place in Florida. He moved it to Los Angeles and made it almost like a blaxploitation movie, which is very cool. I mean, and he even got to the point of bringing back Pam Grier to star in it.
Who's awesome.
Which is like you were talking about earlier with, same thing with Robert Forster and
John
like,
Travolta.
These actors that were kind of not
David
past their prime,
Carradine.
but like, exactly. Like associated with an earlier genre and era, and he brought them back and made them extremely relevant in these excellent films.
He's able to just like shine a light on them and be like, still cool. These people are still cool.
Also, Jackie Brown, again, has a little bit of the Glengarry Glen Ross thing where it's like, every actor is excellent, and it just feels like an act off at times, like having Sam Jackson and Robert De Niro sharing scenes together.
Yeah, but like Robert De Niro, like in arguably his most subdued role.
And he's so good in it.
Great.
I mean, obviously, it's
right.
But, and Bridget Fonda, great.
Oh yeah,
like
yep.
Michael
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, yes, he's great in it too. I'm surprised he didn't show up in more. Tarantino movies.
Hopefully he will, because that was when I learned that he was in that movie. I was like, oh, yes, please, this is so good. So obviously we're going to give it to Jackie Brown because it exists.
Obviously. Yeah, I mean, the other thing about Star Trek, if that were to happen, is that because Tarantino has been saying forever that he's only going to make 10 films because he doesn't want to like get into that thing where he's making bad movies. He specifically said, Death Proof has to be my worst film. I can't do anything worse than that. So I guess he thinks that the way he's going to do that is by cutting himself off at 10. So that was also one of the things when Star Trek was like if he makes a Star Trek movie, is he going to call that his 10th film and be done? Or is he going to be like, well, it's an adaptation of a TV show, so it's technically not my 10th film yet?
I don't think he's going to stick to his 10 film thing. Like,
I don't think so
ridiculous.
either.
Like, it's not about the number of films; it's about the quality of the film. So instead of
Exactly.
limiting yourself to 10, just stop when you're making shitty movies. Stop.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, he's also kind of aimed at the technological advancements for that too. You know, he's such a purist. Like, I need to shoot on film, and I need to. So if they're not making new film stock, I'm not making any more movies.
Right. Right. Well. Okay. We'll see. Yeah, whatever. All right, so let's get in. Let's roll up our sleeves and come into this one hot and dirty. You ready?
Right on. We've discussed all the movies, so let's see what happens.
Let's do some arguing, or not. Apparently,
or not. So
between Pulp Fiction and True Romance,
Pulp Fiction, of course.
No disrespect to True Romance, but
no. One of Tony Scott's best films, I think. True Romance.
I would agree. I'd agree.
Yeah.
Great director too. Like, yeah, we could do a whole show on the Scott brothers.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What?
That's
what, are you kidding
with
me?
two very unique film styles.
Yes.
Like, you know, Tony Scott tends to be a little bit more lowbrow than Ridley Scott, but he's still he's got some great movies. Top Gun and Days of Thunder.
He tends to be a little bit more lowbrow than his brother, who makes movies where people, by and large, mostly don't talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Sin City and Death Proof.
I would give it to Sin City.
Jumping over to Kill Bill 1 and 2. Oh, no, he does. Sorry, Kill Bill 1 versus Hateful Eight. I'm still a Hateful Eight guy.
Same.
Wow. And then Inglourious Bastards and Jackie Brown.
This is the toughest one for me.
Yep. I'm going to go Inglourious Bastards.
I'm going to go there too. It's funny. Leading up to this, I thought I was going to fight harder for Jackie Brown, but I love both these movies so much, and I've probably seen Inglourious Bastards more.
I definitely have, and more recently too. So that might be coloring my opinion, but like, I just think Inglourious Bastards is like super original. Like that. What a good idea. Like, Hitler dies at the end. Awesome.
Yep. That was also his. That was his last film to be edited by Sally Menke, who we talked about a couple weeks ago. Maybe that is part of one of the reasons why Django feels a little bit uneven, because that was the first film he had with a different editor.
Interesting. All right, so let's go back to Pulp Fiction versus Sin City.
Got to give it to Pulp Fiction.
All day by a long shot, and that's saying something, because Sin City is a great fucking movie.
It is.
But
I'm probably going to watch that again, if not tonight.
Yep.
In the next
same
few
here,
days.
but I might do Jackie Brown first. Actually, I might go Tarantino Town.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, I look forward to seeing what kind of person you are after watching all those movies in a row.
Violent. Hateful Eight versus Inglourious Bastards. This is the lineup that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, this is kind of the same. I think these are both A+ movies. I feel like I got to give it to Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah. I agree. That brings us down to the final two, bud. Pulp Fiction versus Inglourious Bastards.
Man, both so excellent. Pulp Fiction just made such a huge impact on like the entire culture of filmmaking, in the way things look, in the way people talk, and it ushered in Tarantino as like a massive force, who even since then has only done 7 movies.
Yep.
According to him, 8 according to us. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like Pulp Fiction is still just like a huge turning point in movie making.
Agreed. And it like popularized, if not invented. Why don't you go ahead and tell the story out of order? Like what
Exactly.
I mean, as one of its accomplishments. Yeah. Dialogue never sounded like that really before. The framing, the
also
shot,
like casting against type.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just even the thought of casting Bruce Willis in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my favorite roles in that movie, Mr. Wolf. Like that character is so good. Please, pretty please with the cherry on top. Clean the fucking car.
Yeah. So good. It's funny, like Sam Jackson's career in a lot of ways has been like defined from that movie. It's him being like the angry, yelling, loud guy.
Yep.
But before that, he was like the computer guy in Jurassic Park. And, you know, like the military guy in Patriot games, stuff like that. Yeah, it's, Pulp Fiction really defined him as like the badass motherfucker, Sam Jackson.
Dude, the wallet.
Yeah.
What? Just the wallet, you know what I mean? Like, Amanda Plummer and Tim Roth, Ringo and Honey Bunny.
Yep,
so good. I mean, just putting and having him end the movie, Sam Jackson, right? Like dressed like an asshole. You know, dorks. You look like dorks.
Yeah, you look like a couple dorks.
Bruce Willis's the whole his French girlfriend there with the blueberry pancakes. You know, and him having
a pot belly,
him having to go back, like just saving his temper, and like that scene afterwards where he's flipping out in the car, like don't you grab that fucking watch, you know, like you know, just what he goes through to retrieve that watch. It's like no.
Well, what his father went through to give him that watch, like that whole scene is so good when he's just talking about, I kept your father's watch.
No, your father kept this uncomfortable hunk of metal up his ass.
That's right. Yeah, they're like POWs or something, right?
Yeah, later died of dysentery. You know what I mean? So it's like what? Like, so he managed to keep it up there while he had dysentery. Like, my God! Like, no wonder he went back for it. Like, his old man suffered so much. This watch, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction.
What a ride! I mean, it's still so fresh. Like it's aged. Oh, the Jackrabbit Slims scene, the dancing,
and the Buddy Holly waiter.
Yep. Eric Stoltz is a fucking drug dealing prick. Eric Stoltz, like it was done at that point. I feel like no one was looking at him. Not according to me. Like he's a fine actor, but like he wasn't in shit. Notably, and just so perfectly cast there. Ving Rhames, like I mean, that,
oh man, he's
just,
so
I
good.
mean, any of his scenes, but that specifically when he's crossing in front of the Butch's car, that moment of realization is like so. Oh man, unbelievable.
And
oh God, just yeah.
I had a thought. Oh, it also made songs that had been hits in the past hits again. It had that effect. It's like Dusty Springfield's version of "Son of a Preacher Man," and also I guess there was a modern cover of it at the time. "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon."
Oh yeah, it was Urge Overkill.
Diamond.
It was recorded on tape and released in mono.
Did not know that.
Yeah, that was like their biggest song. I haven't heard much from them since.
That song is in that movie, right?
No, it's no, totally. It's the heroin scene when she overdoses. She thinks it's cocaine in his pocket.
That's right.
And she puts that on. She plays it on a reel to reel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Pulp Fiction it is. I think we probably knew that when we made the list. Maybe.
I was going to say we mentioned that in our first bracket that it might win. I think we knew that's where it was going, but it was fun. It was fun to go through his whole career. The one thing we didn't mention is his two-parter of CSI, which I thought that I was going to watch just because he wrote and directed it, and I could talk something to it. But I didn't watch it. I've actually never seen any CSI.
I've only watched
so-
the only CSI I've seen was the one that we were in.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, I used to wait for. Yeah, that's right. But then they used our song a lot more after that. The one that like we were all psyched about is barely in, but then it was like in their whole ad campaign for a while.
Well, yeah. So for reference, we had a song called "Florida Sunshine," which it's kind of the bane of my existence now, just because it got so much attention and didn't work, and we knew it wasn't the right song. I'm just like, ugh, whatever. But yeah, so it got licensed to an episode of CSI Miami with David Caruso, and then we like
Best of the Best, David Caruso coming out next week.
The episode of CSI Miami that we're in wins. But and we'll also do Best of the Best Beatles albums. Spoiler, it's Abbey Road, but we'll talk about it anyway. But yes, we get a hotel room. We're all excited to watch us like in our music on TV. Ooh. And then we like went out, got dinner and grabbed some like beers and came back. We're all crowded around the TV together. And it's like literally our song appears as a car is like driving by. I was like, that was it. And we're like, what the fuck? That was stupid. But then it turns out, the very next day, it was like, CSI Miami. Like during like Monday Night Football, we were all over it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being home at my parents' house one day, and we were like, it was one of those rare like weeks off at a time that we had where we could be home for a second. And I remember my dad had Sunday Football on, and every single commercial break that CSI ad would come on with our song. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, I was already getting sick of this song.
Right. There it is. So that's our little anecdote to end this program. Thank you for listening, and tune in next week for another episode chock full of pop culture uselessness.
That's right. We're here for that.
Specifically,
we appreciate your listenership.
We have found our lane.
Yeah.
All right. Later.
All right. Later. Nice job.
SAZETU is brought to you by Maine Spirits. Learn more about the spirits they bring into the state of Maine at mainspirits.com and what to do with them by downloading their app for your smartphone or visit them on Instagram at Maine_spirits. Promotional consideration provided by State Theater Portland. Learn more at statetheaterportland.com and Sun Tiki Studios. Learn more at suntikistudios.com.